Alongside the personal grief that all my family are feeling, we also share with so many of you in the United Kingdom.
When Camilla quietly moved Queen Elizabeth's jewelry into her family members' chambers, she had no idea King Charles would find out, and what he did next shook the entire monarchy to its core.
Queen Elizabeth was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing.
It all started on a Wednesday morning, May 4th, 2025. Queen Elizabeth II had just been laid to rest 3 years earlier in a state funeral that was watched by millions around the world. For many, that chapter of history had quietly closed. The mourning bands had been removed, the black crepe bunting folded away, and though grief still lingered in corners of the palace, the business of monarchy had resumed, almost by force. But behind the scenes, something had gone terribly wrong, something that had the power to change history as we know it. Stay with us till the end of this video because what happened next is something you don't want to miss. You see, as royal tradition demands, the personal belongings of the late Queen, which included her jewelry, private papers, handwritten letters, and selected heirlooms, were to be secured under strict lock and key for a period of 99 to 100 years. Her possession were held in trust as both historical and sovereign property. This archival period is enforced by the Royal Collection Trust and Palace Statute, protecting the late monarch's legacy from public release or family claims, at least until the rightful time. So, from this, the expected date to open Queen Elizabeth II full treasury had not yet arrived.
I think it's wonderful work, and I do thank everybody and all the others too who have been volunteering.
In fact, it was decades away, and yet on that quiet Wednesday morning, Donald Walton, the royal treasurer, appeared unannounced at Buckingham Palace with a troubling report. According to him, a whole lot of Her late Majesty's possessions were missing. Among them were the sapphire Jubilee brooch that late Queen wore during her 65th year on the throne, the double-strand pearl necklace she wore at Princess Diana's funeral in 1997, and most disturbingly, a pair of handwritten journals, known only to a few, which she kept during the darkest days of the COVID-19 lockdown, including letters written to her heirs. By the time the report landed in front of Prince William and Princess Anne, the palace was no longer calm. This was not just a breach, it was a scandal in the making. The first move came swiftly. William and Anne summoned Mr. Donald Officer into a secure briefing chamber, the same one often used for wartime planning. Anne, seated upright and stern, wasted no time. "Mr. Walton," she said, folding her arms, "how long have these items been under your direct supervision?" "Since the last 2 years' September, Your Royal Highness," Donald replied, clearly shaken. "Everything was sealed and double-logged. Nothing had moved." William leaned forward. "Then how do you explain that 3 of the Queen's personal treasures are now missing?" Donald adjusted his cufflinks with trembling fingers. "Sir, I'm at a loss. I can only assume there has been a deliberate breach, but I swear to you, on everything, I will do whatever it takes to find out who is responsible. This is an affront to all of us." It was a decent answer, but in Buckingham Palace, decency wasn't enough. When the news reached his private study, Charles rose, slowly but deliberately, from his leather armchair, shedding the blanket that had been draped across his knees. His face was pale, but there was steel in his voice. "This is no longer about trinkets," he said to his aide. "This is about my mother's legacy, and mine." He summoned Mr. Walton once more, this time to his private quarters. "You will do what you must," Charles said quietly, "but understand this. Any attempt to hide, soften, or politicize this matter will be considered betrayal. Find who did this, and fast." Donald bowed and left, visibly shaken by the situation. Still unsatisfied, Charles ordered a private council. That evening, at exactly 4 p.m., 4 of them gathered in the royal war room: Prince William, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and Queen Camilla. Only trusted staff were permitted within earshot, and even they were sworn to silence. And what happened in that meeting changed everything. Stay tuned. Charles began the meeting by briefing them. "The Queen's private possessions have been tampered with," he said flatly. "I want answers, not from the press, not from the court, from us. There was a long pause after he uttered those words. Camilla, who was seated to the king's right, broke the silence. "Then perhaps we start with the treasury itself," she said smoothly. "Have we considered the obvious? That Mr. Walton may have had help or motives? Are you suggesting he stole them?" Edward asked, blinking. "I'm saying we shouldn't rule it out," Camilla replied. "These things don't simply vanish." William nodded. "She has a point. We can't ignore that angle. Maybe he wasn't alone." Charles tapped his fingers on the oak table.
He wouldn't take it from me, I don't think, at that age. No, but I was interested to hear how he got on.
"You're asking me to interrogate the royal treasurer? Publicly?" Anne's voice came sharp. "Absolutely not. Not after what happened with Margaret Stafford in '89. A false accusation nearly destroyed his life. No one in the royal household would dare take so much as a pin." "I agree," Edward added. "We must tread carefully. If we accuse one of our own and it leaks, it will ignite another firestorm." The room fell into a tense silence. Finally, Charles nodded. It was clear that he had made a decision. "We allow the Treasury to run its internal investigation, quietly, but we conduct our own under royal authority. It will report directly to me, and no one outside this room will know." At exactly 5 p.m., Charles summoned Sir Clement McAllister, the Chief Royal Security Director, to his personal office. A man with decades of intelligence experience, Clement had served under both the Queen and the former Prime Minister during international crises. Only 3 people were present: Clement, Charles, and Camilla. Charles stood beside the hearth, dressed simply in a navy cardigan and gray trousers. Camilla sat off to the side, silent but watchful. "Clement," Charles said, "we have a breach of the highest order, and we can't trust the usual chains of command. I'm appointing you to lead a private royal security probe. Full discretion. You will report only to me." He then narrated the full story to him. After that, Clement gave a crisp nod. "Understood, Your Majesty. Timeline? Initial findings within 10 days. Full report in 30 seconds. And if I uncover uncomfortable truths?" Clement asked. Charles's face hardened. "Then we face them, no matter who it implicates." By the following day, being Thursday, May 5th, 2025, the story was everywhere. News outlets across the UK and beyond were flooded with headlines like "Royal Heirlooms Missing, Palace in Crisis," "Queen Elizabeth's Treasures Gone, Buckingham Mum," "Where are the jewels, and who took them?" And as usual, the internet did what it always does. It speculated. Conspiracy theories bloomed like spring weeds. Was it an inside job? A political distraction? Or worse, a cover-up? People needed an answer. It got so bad that in just one morning, Mr. Donald Walton had held 7 press briefings, each more desperate than the last. His tone grew defensive, then erratic, and then empty. Soon, the press stopped believing him altogether. Some even laughed him off. "The man can't even secure a brooch," one headline sniped. To stabilize the crumbling narrative, the royal family sent out Prince William. He appeared, calm, sharp. He stood before cameras outside Clarence House and offered a statement. "The matter is under full investigation by internal and external royal authorities. The individual responsible will be identified and apprehended. The legacy of Her Majesty will be protected at all costs." He bowed. He left. No questions taken. But that wasn't what the public wanted. They didn't want dignity. They wanted names. However, behind palace walls, the pressure continued to grow. The 10-day timeline King Charles had set for preliminary findings was ticking down fast. 3 days had passed, just 7 remained, and still no answers. Donald had gone through every page of the Treasury's entry logs and inventory. Nothing irregular, nothing missing from the paperwork. Everything on paper looked perfect, except that it wasn't. Sir Clement McAllister, now carrying the weight of a crown on his shoulders, had interrogated every officer on the Royal Treasury floor, including Donald, including guards, clerks, and assistants. Everyone. But nothing stuck, nothing moved, no fingerprints, no breach alarm, no malfunction. The palace was airtight, and yet The jewels were gone. So who actually took the jewelry? Keep watching for more. It has been exactly 7 days since the investigation began. That evening, as the palace emptied for the night, Sir Clement remained behind in his glass-walled office at the back of the East Wing. The sun was bleeding out through the windows. The light was low. He stared at the case files again and again. Everything led to nothing. Just as he was about to close up, he buzzed his team of 7. "Everyone meet me in the archive hall in 20 minutes, Clement said into the comms. "We're not going home until we have a damn lead." They gathered in a windowless basement under Buckingham Palace, a long concrete room lined with steel cabinets and security monitors. They went over every entry sheet, every duty log, and every shift report again. Nothing. Until 2:03 a.m. when it happened. A rookie by the name Donna was sitting cross-legged on the floor, her laptop balanced on her knees, whispering half to herself. "Wait, this doesn't line up." She leaned in, then stood, then she ran. "Clement," she called, "you're going to want to see this." Everyone gathered as she pointed to a scanned log sheet. "Look at this guard's log entry. April 27, 2025. He clocked in at 3:49 a.m., but his shift wasn't supposed to begin until 6 a.m. And there's no closing log, no follow-up, no remark, nothing. "Name?" Clement asked, suddenly wide awake. "R. Halton, Robert Halton." "Has he been questioned?" "He was part of the first batch," another team member said, flipping through records. "But he said nothing unusual. Passed his security check. No flags." "Then we missed something," Clement muttered. "Wake everyone up." By 8 a.m. on Friday, May 12th, Clement had already called Donald Officer. "I need the full profile and contact file for Robert Halton." "Halton?" Donald repeated. "Of course. Just give me a moment." 2 minutes later, Donald's voice returned over the line, calm but curious. "Yes, I've got him. Robert Halton, 10 years in service. Clean record. Why? He's being summoned. For questioning. This morning." "Understood. Should I notify him?" "No," Clement said. "I will." Later that morning, Halton was brought in under quiet orders. The room was bare, a single chair, one recorder. Clement and Donna sat across from him. "Robert," Clement began, "we've reviewed your entry logs. Tell us what happened on the morning of April 27th. You reported for duty nearly 2 hours early." Halton blinked. His eyes darted. He shifted in his seat. I was just early. I got in, walked the halls, did my rounds. Did you file a report?" "I forgot. I was tired, I guess." "You're saying you forgot protocol? After 10 years of service?" Halton looked cornered. "We can suspend you," Donna added. "Strip your badge, and even have you flagged on national security lists." Those words broke every form of resistance. Then, he said the words that shocked everyone. "Keep watching to find out what happened next." Okay, he said, voice cracking. "Listen, I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. I was told it was from the Crown. I swear, on my wife's treatment. I would never have done it otherwise." Clement sat still, cold. "You were told by whom?" "I don't know. I got a call. No name. Just a voice. Said it was an urgent instruction. From upstairs. Royal orders. You expect us to believe someone called you, told you to enter the treasury, and you just did it? They knew my name, my shift, my daughter's school. They offered money that was enough to pay for my wife's cancer treatment, and they said it was sanctioned." There was a long silence in the room. Then Donna asked the question no one dared to ask. "Did they mention a name? A title?" Halton paused, then swallowed hard, and "They didn't give a name. It was only the number, I swear." At that point, Clement leaned in, eyes narrowed. "Robert," he said firmly, "can we see your call log from that day?" Robert nodded, pale and defeated. "Of course, it's all there. April 27th, 3:22 a.m. Unknown number. That's when they called." Clement signaled Donna, who pulled up the log. The number was there, an unregistered line, but active. Without wasting time, they called it. A young female voice answered. Her voice was calm and controlled as she said, "Hello. This is Chief Security Officer Sir Clement McAllister," he said, identifying himself. "Who am I speaking with?" There was a pause, then a quiet click. The call was terminated. Donna was already tracing it. Within minutes, they had a GPS ping. The call originated from within Buckingham Palace. Clement's blood ran cold. It came from inside. Donna nodded slowly. Yes, this wasn't an external operation. Someone within these walls made that call. That was the moment Clement realized this went far above him. It had been orchestrated from a position of power. Someone who knew how to bypass protocol. Someone who could manipulate a loyal guard with a sick wife and do it in the name of the crown. He knew what he had to do. He went straight to the king, and this is where it gets more interesting. By 4:30 p.m. that same Friday, Clement was standing in front of King Charles in his private study, visibly rattled. The air in the room was thick with tension. Charles looked up from his desk, where his glasses rested on a leather-bound folder. "What have you found?" he asked, voice low but firm. "Your Majesty," Clement began. Then he narrated the full investigation before he then said, "We have traced the call that instructed Robert Halton to breach the vault. It came from within Buckingham Palace." Charles froze, his jaw clenched. "You're certain?" "Tracked and confirmed, sir. No breach, no false number. The call was made from here. And sir, we believe it was deliberate, possibly to fund something or cover something." The king turned away, staring out the window at the palace lawn. For a long moment, he didn't speak. When he did, his voice was quiet. No one else must know, not yet." "I agree," Clement replied. "But if this is an internal act, we may not be able to rely on protocol. I suggest a different approach, one that avoids media attention." "What do you suggest?" Charles asked, turning. Clement stepped forward. "Have the personal maids of the royal family conduct a discreet search of each residence and chamber. No uniforms, no press, no suspicion. We'll brief them carefully, only the most trusted." Charles considered this, then nodded slowly. "And the incentive? Promise them recognition, a royal commendation. Make it worth the risk." "Done," the king said. That evening, a private meeting was called. Every personal maid, valet, and trusted servant of the senior royals was gathered in the underground chamber of the East Wing. King Charles himself addressed them. "I speak to you not only as your sovereign," he said, "but as a son mourning his mother. Her legacy has been stained. One of you may help restore it. If you find anything at all, you are to report to Sir Clement directly. And I promise, in the name of the crown, your loyalty will be honored." The search began immediately and discreetly. Each maid moved through their assigned quarters like shadows, quiet and invisible. For 2 days, nothing surfaced. Every member of the royal family was treated equally. William, Anne, Edward, even Charles himself. But then, on the evening of Sunday, May 14th, something broke. One of the palace maids, Eleanor Hartridge, assigned to Camilla's private wing, reported to Clement. She was breathless, pale. I think I've found something," she said. "In young Eliza's room." "Eliza?" Clement repeated. "Camilla's granddaughter?" "Yes, sir. It was inside a jewelry box that was shaped like a rabbit, hidden under her wardrobe. It was the sapphire Jubilee brooch, one of the very items that was reported to be missing from the Queen's collection." Eleanor handed it over with gloved hands. Within an hour, the brooch had been confirmed. It was real, and it hadn't been out of the vault since the Queen died. Clement and the king stood over it in silence. "Only one person would have accessed it and passed it down," Clement said. "Queen Camilla. Summon her," Charles said. Camilla arrived 20 minutes later, dressed in a dark green coat and pearls. She entered the private chamber where Charles, Clement, and Donna waited. "Charles," she said lightly, "what is this about?" The king didn't respond. He motioned toward the brooch on the velvet tray. "Found in Eliza's room," Clement said plainly. "And the call that instructed Halton to access the vault? We traced it. The device was located in her wing, the same room, in fact, where we found the brooch." Camilla didn't flinch. She stared at the item, then at Charles. "This is absurd," she said. "You think I instructed someone to steal from your mother's vault and hide it with my granddaughter? No one else could have had access." "Camilla," Charles said, voice heavy, "this isn't a light accusation. It's a betrayal. It's a setup," she snapped. "Someone wants to smear my family. This is political. It always has been. You've never trusted my bloodline." "Then tell us," Clement said. "Who would want to do that? Who else had the means, the access, and the motive?" Camilla was silent, but it did not end there. At that point, Camilla knew there was nothing left to hide. The evidence was too precise, the trail too clear. But even then, she wasn't ready to fall on her sword. not completely. She straightened her back, looked directly at King Charles, and said calmly but firmly, "I did not steal it. I took what was promised to me. When your mother was alive, she told me herself that piece of jewelry would be mine one day. So why keep it locked away? Why wait?"
Where your own interest in horses came from.
I was only honoring her words. Besides, Kate and Meghan own a lot of Diana's jewelry. Why can't I have this one? Silence fell in the room. Not one royal moved. The air grew heavier, but Charles wasn't moved by sentiment. His eyes, tired and sharp, scanned hers for truth and found something else: justification, not remorse. With slow, deliberate force, King Charles summoned the senior members of the royal household and announced what would become one of the most controversial royal rulings in decades. Before them all, he stripped Camilla of her ceremonial duties, her titles, and any future claims on royal property for herself or her family. "This monarchy," he said, "was built on service and trust. If we lose that, we lose everything." That evening, the news broke.
If I can just take you back to the start.
Television screens across the United Kingdom lit up with headlines: Queen Camilla stripped of royal rights amid missing jewelry scandal. Palace confirms. King Charles makes unprecedented move against his consort. Social media exploded. Some were shocked, others relieved. Many debated whether she truly stole it, or if the Queen had indeed made a private promise. But the overwhelming response was clear. Justice had been served. That night, just before 9 p.m., King Charles released a pre-recorded video message to the nation. He appeared visibly exhausted but composed, seated behind his desk with the royal crest behind him. "My fellow Britons," he began, "concerning the matter of the missing royal jewelry, it is true that it was found in the possession of a member of my household. That individual has now faced the required consequences under our royal code. This is not a moment of celebration, but of duty fulfilled." He further commended all those in charge of the investigations. And that was all he said. Although it was one of the hardest messages he had ever delivered, and perhaps the most painful decision he had ever made, it was also the most important.
6 months, I think.
Because sometimes setting an example, a legacy of accountability, matters more than preserving love. And above all, the crown must always come first. So, what do you think about Queen Camilla's shocking fallout with King Charles? Was justice truly served, or is there more to this royal drama than meets the eye? Share your opinions with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen, and you will enjoy it.